Livia Drusilla was fortune's plaything. She was born privileged. In her late teens, she was a married war refugee fleeing for her life, and by her early 20s, she was Queen of Rome in all but name. Livia was born on January 30th, 59 BCE, to her mother Aufidia and to her father, the Roman senator Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus. Livia grew up during dangerous political times as Rome changed from a republic to a dictatorship under Julius Caesar. After Caesar's assassination, brutal civil war broke out. During this tumult, 16-year-old Livia was married off to her cousin Tiberius Claudius Nero. After Octavian's victory at the Battle of Philippi, Livia and her husband became political refugees because the Claudians had fought against Octavian. Livia's father committed suicide. She and her husband fled with their infant son Tiberius to Sicily and later to Greece to escape the proscriptions of Rome. In one of many close scrapes, she was forced to escape pursuers by running through a burning forest carrying her baby son Tiberius. In 39 BCE, peace was reestablished and the proscriptions ended, allowing Livia and her young family to return to Rome. She was pregnant with her second child when she was introduced to Octavian socially. He was immediately smitten with her, and the attraction may have been mutual. Either voluntarily or under pressure from Octavian, Livia's husband Tiberius divorced her in the late summer of 39 BCE while she was still pregnant with his child. In late October, Octavian divorced his second wife Scribonia on the same day she gave birth to his only surviving child, Julia. Livia's second son, Drusus, was born on 14 January 38 BCE and committed to the guardianship of his father, as was customary after Roman divorce. Livia and Octavian were married 3 days later. Livia's former husband attended the festivities and gave the bride away. Tongues wagged with scandal over Octavian's courtship and wedding with Livia, but their 51-year marriage outlived the critics. Ancient historians say that the first couple of Rome lived modestly, despite considerable wealth, and they set the model for noble Roman family life. In one example of their down-to-earth lifestyle, Livia is said to have woven the cloth for Octavian's clothing herself. After her ex-husband's premature death, Livia's sons were returned to her, and she raised them in her household along with other noble orphans, including the future emperor Otho. Unfortunately, Livia and Octavian, who will now be called Augustus, had no children together, except for a stillborn daughter early in their marriage. This lack of obvious heirs caused much intrigue and uncertainty over who would succeed Augustus as Princeps' first citizen. After a lot of misadventure and the deaths of many candidates, the last heir standing was Livia's elder son Tiberius. He took over in 14 CE. Shortly after his death, Augustus was declared a god by the Senate. When his will was read, it was discovered that Augustus had adopted his wife Livia as his daughter. As his daughter by testament, Augustus left her 1/3 of his vast property. From that day forward, she was called Julia Augusta Divi Filia, which is Latin for daughter of a god. It was highly unusual for a Roman husband to adopt his wife. However, there are reasons why Augustus may have taken this step beyond his sincere regard for Livia. By absorbing Emperor Tiberius's mother into the Julian gens, Augustus emphasized his dynastic plan for succession, thereby discouraging political conspiracy and the possibility of civil strife which might threaten Livia's physical safety. As Augustus's daughter, Livia inherited the loyalty of his slaves and freedmen, and she gained access to and influence over his large and important political clientela. And now, as daughter of the god Augustus, She was declared chief priestess of his cult, further raising her status as a religious figure. Livia's hairstyle is called the nodus, the Latin word for knot, by scholars of archaeology and classics. The nodus is characterized by volume over the forehead and another volume created by a bun at the back of the head. While this style is symmetrical from the front and rear views, it is one of the few Roman hair silhouettes without a distinct center part division. Scholars identify Livia and other Roman rulers by means of portrait types. Ancient Roman rulers used portraits of themselves and their families on coins and statuary as propaganda. Coins always included the name of the individual depicted. For example, an official portrait of Augustus would be approved, copied many times, and distributed all over the empire. Sometimes the official copies themselves would be copied. Statues sharing unique features such as eye and mouth shaping and hairstyles can be grouped together. Livia has 3 known portrait types. Her first is youthful and idealized, her second is matronly, and her third has individualized features but includes ancient Greek hairstyles associated with goddesses. The Greek styles are most common on portraits made after Livia's death and deification. Today, I will show you how to arrange a second portrait type Livia hairstyle. This portrait type is the most complex of all her styles. Livia did not invent the nodus hairstyle. It was popular when she was a girl. The details of the nodus arrangement varied from woman to woman, as you see. However, each of the examples follow the principle of volume over the forehead and a bun at the back. As a wealthy woman, Livia had servants, enslaved or formerly enslaved, to dress her hair. These women were called ornatrices. We know the names of some of her ornatrices from tomb inscriptions. They were called Fortunata, Nicobula, and Glyco. Ancient Roman hairdressers used needle and thread to sew Livia's hairstyles together, and so shall I. Remove any dried partings by dabbing water at the scalp. Apply pomade to make the hair more manageable. Comb the hair after dabbing on the water and make sure the parting is gone. Section a triangular parting on top of the head. Hold it out of the way with a hair bodkin. Part off each side just behind the ear and reserve both of these sections for later. Sew a ponytail on the back hair with needle and thread. The ponytail should ride just below the occipital bone. After the ponytail is secure, leave the needle and thread attached. Divide the left side in 2. Twist a rope braid and bind it into the ponytail with the needle and thread. Repeat the same procedure on the right side. Pick up a small strand from the left side of the ponytail. 3-strand braid it to its tips. Repeat this with a strand from the right side of the ponytail. Drop the top triangle and comb it smooth. Divide the triangle 1 inch behind the forehead. Backcomb the forehead hair toward the scalp from about 6 inches away. With gold thread, sew a ponytail about 1.5 inches out from the forehead. Leave the thread attached. With brown wool, sew a second ponytail near the scalp on the rear portion of the top hair nearest the part line at the front. Clip off the brown thread. Aim the larger ponytail backward and pin it down with a bodkin. Take the needle with the gold thread and stitch the two ponytails together, thus creating the nodus puff. Combine the ends of both ponytails and braid to the tips of the hair. Stitch the nodus braid to the rear ponytail. Leave the thread attached. Next, we wrap the bun. To wrap the bun, reserve the two small side braids from the back hair. Twist the loose ponytail back hair into a bun, then stitch with the attached needle and thread to the scalp. Stitch back and forth and around the bun until it feels secure. Now loosely wind the two side braids around the base of the bun in opposing directions. Pick up the attached needle and thread and stitch the small braids into place with enough tension to hold them but not to pucker. When they feel secure, clip the thread to remove the needle. With more brown wool, stitch the top braid to the scalp so that it cannot slip off to the side. Use this needle or a bodkin to loosen the center of the nodus puff. The reason for the many steps of this style may have had a biological reason. By this time, Livia was likely in menopause, a time when most women experience hair loss. By combining the top braids and creating two decorative braids from the ponytail, it makes the hair appear longer than it may have been, especially in the top where the hair miniaturizes from hormonal change. In 29 CE, Julia Augusta died. Decades later, hostile historians claimed that she had been behind the exiles or deaths of everyone who stood between the emperorship and her son Tiberius. They accused her of murdering Augustus too, by means of poisoned figs. However, there is no proof that she killed anyone, and there is much evidence that she was revered during her lifetime for her beneficence and her influence on behalf of worthy causes and protégés. Livia was Augustus's most respected counselor, and even her notorious great-grandson Caligula acknowledged her intelligence and circumspection by calling her Ulixem Stolatum, Ulysses in drag.